What's up, everybody? Aaron Smith here, back with the Real Estate Momentum Podcast, and I've got my friend Sarah Manning with us today. Sarah, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Other than the fact that we had a little traffic this morning, took you an hour to get to the studio.
It did.
Yeah. So, a little background story here. Sarah and I have been pretty much at the same real estate brokerage together for several years, and we've shared a lot of business advice and we're sounding boards for each other when need to kind of hear somebody else's opinion. So I wanted to bring Sarah on because I always respect your stories and what you've got to say, and you always add humor to it. So I'm sure we'll have some laughs today. So I guess, Sarah, bring me up a little bit to what's a day in the life right now. You've got 4 kids,
I do.
and yet you still make this work.
I do.
Yeah. So what's a day in the life look like?
I get up pretty early now, and I start probably about 5:30 so I can get a workout in and
Nice.
shower. And then I spend about 2 hours on my business before I have to deal with children and what they want. I'd love to say that I'm super perfect about that, but I'm absolutely not. And it's work in progress.
I mean, I don't have 4 kids, and I certainly don't have the responsibilities that you probably do with having the 4 kids. But you're right. I mean, when the chaos hits, you're self-employed. If you don't work, the business doesn't work. So when the chaos hits, you kind of just have to juggle it all, right?
Yes.
And that in itself, and we've talked about this, that's the beauty of being in the real estate industry, is that you can wake up as early as you want to. You can stay up and do stuff late. Kind of work around those challenges. So that's huge. What are some things that you use, I guess, for time blocking? Like, how do you block that in? Obviously, wake up early.
I do. I still use a paper planner, which
I've tried to get you over to the technology side, but that's cool.
But I use my phone, but not as detailed as my paper planner. I'm able to not just block out the time, but I can list what it is I'm doing during that time. Otherwise, I get to that time and I sit there for probably about 20 minutes before I even start on something because I don't know what to do.
And that's something that we've worked on together,
Yes.
right? So being specific, when you say, all right, this is the time that I'm setting aside for lead generation. You're going out there to find buyers for your sellers and sellers for your buyers. And when you put it on the calendar as lead generation, you kind of sit down at the computer and it's like, well, I guess I got to figure out what I'm doing today. But like you do, you go in there and specifically, I am sending out letters to this community on this date to find sellers for this buyer that I'm working with. And that actually has lately started to work out pretty well for you.
It has, and I'm really specific with that. Like on Mondays, it might be, typing everything up and making sure I have whatever letter or note or idea or vendor list is going out to that neighborhood. Tuesdays, it's probably stuffing, making sure things are addressed. Usually by Thursday, they're in the mail. And that's gotten me results. And honestly, having more detailed system is a lot more helpful because lead generation is really vague.
Yeah.
And there's so many things you could do with it.
It's a broad category. So obviously, most of my audience knows that I operate about 80% in Northern Kentucky. We do about 20% of our business in Cincinnati. You're North Cincinnati, so talk about the markets that you specialize in and what's going on in those markets right now.
Yeah, I'm north of Cincinnati, so Liberty Township, Westchester, Mason, Fairfield, Hamilton are the main ones that I do a lot in, Sycamore. But it's still busy. If you were to look on the MLS between 350 and 400 in Westchester, there's probably not a lot out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still kind of a struggle. And crazily enough, in Sycamore, if you're looking between 600 and 850, you're still not going to find anything.
Well, and it's all relative, right?
It
I mean,
is.
if you look in certain markets for a higher level price house, much higher than average for our region, you're going to find a ton of them because there's no market for that, or there's not as strong of a market for that high level home in those areas. But you go to Sycamore, Mason, you know the areas better than I do.
Yeah.
Once you get north of Blue Ash, those areas a lot better. But you get in those areas, that's commonplace. And those houses sell very well in those areas.
It is. Those $800,000 houses are in Sycamore are, I mean, even in Westchester, your average is going to be like that 450, maybe 500. So, but that $800,000 house in Sycamore is basically the same thing as what you're going to be.
It's all relative.
At.
What's the average for this zip code? And then whatever that sweet spot is going to be hard to find.
Yes.
Yeah. I've got you. So what are the differences with those markets compared to other markets around Cincinnati? Like age of construction, or like how do those areas differ a little bit than the rest of Cincinnati?
I would say the more you get into suburbia, the houses are probably, the 80s or newer. And there aren't a lot of lower price points. Westchester, Liberty, they're almost impossible to get into if you are, even under 300.
Is the draw there that their schools are ranked so high?
It is. Mason schools, Lakota schools, Sycamore schools are amazing too. And those are places people want to live. And when you have people that want to live there and not the inventory on the market, it makes it really hard.
Yeah. And it just, if you are out there, maybe you're new to the Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky area and you're trying to check out, like, you're moving here from out of the area, you want to see what the schools are like. I think greatschools.org is a good resource. You can kind of go on there and see what the grades are, and parents leave reviews. And some of that might be just they've got an axe to grind, and some of it might be that they're just really excited about their school district that they're in and all that. So that's good. What else? Like daily life, anything you want to go over? Because I want to get into some of this weird stuff that you've negotiated into contracts. But just a day in the life, do you have any advice for other agents who are kind of living that, hey, I'm uber responsible at home, but I also have to run a business?
I think the biggest thing is to include your children.
Oh, good.
If they understand your goals and they know what your goals are going to do for your family as a whole, they're more likely to respect them. And not only respect them, but if they're anything like my kids, they're going to be like, you need to do this because we want to go on vacation.
Yeah. If you help me do this, then I can make life a little bit easier on our family, right? Yes. So I like that. That's good stuff. So tell me about this llama picture.
A few years ago, it was actually my brother and my sister-in-law, and this house they fell in love with. It had. You open the half bathroom door on the first floor, and just right in your face was this huge picture of just a llama face. My sister-in-law fell in love with it, and she wanted the house. She wanted the picture more. So we negotiated that into the sale. And the best part was the seller didn't realize that, because he didn't live there, he owned it and he'd done some work, but he didn't realize that the picture was the stager's. So he had to pay the stager for it because he agreed to the contract.
He wanted to sell the house, so he's like, yep, it's not mine, but you can have it, and I'll pay whatever I have to pay.
He did, yeah.
Any idea what that llama picture cost?
I don't know. He wasn't thrilled about it. I know that.
I'm sure, yeah. So let's talk about that, too, because lenders don't necessarily like to see something that's not a refrigerator or a dishwasher written into the contract. I know how I do it when it comes to writing that stuff in, because we've got a whole list here. Pool tables come up a lot, lawnmowers, just stuff that either the seller doesn't want to move or they don't need it when they go somewhere else, or the buyer really wants the llama picture. What would you say, and I know we have to kind of tread lightly here, but what advice would you give me on if we're writing a contract?
If it's a big item that is going to, that a lender might view as, you're paying for, I usually do an addendum with that the lender doesn't see.
A bill of sale on the side kind of thing, yeah.
Sometimes when, like with the llama picture, I just slid that in there with my refrigerator stuff because it doesn't add value to the real estate. So, it did for my buyer, but not most people.
Yeah, so for those who are not super familiar with real estate purchase contracts, there's a clause in there that says these items are permanently affixed to the house and they all stay unless you say that they don't, like a chandelier, or like a permanently affixed mirror or something like that. And then there's a clause in there that says that we have personal property, stuff that could be picked up and carried out of the house that is only included because it doesn't add any additional value. And the problem there is if we throw in a $3,000 pool table, well, now the appraiser and the lender have to factor in, well, how much value is that pool table adding to the sale? So what we typically do is we will take a bill of sale, put it off on the side, and just say that, the seller is providing this pool table at $0 and it is to be transferred on the closing date kind of thing. And then that way it shows that there's no value assigned to the pool table. It's being left at the convenience of the seller kind of thing. A stack of lumber. What happened there?
I had a client who was really into woodworking, and the seller had a huge stack of lumber. I don't know what their plans were for it originally.
In case they needed it one day.
I guess one day, if they're anything like my father.
Right.
And they just, it was sitting in the garage, and my buyer was like, hey, you don't want to move the lumber. I'd really love to have it. And just to make sure they left it, we included it. Because,
wrote it in.
Yeah.
I got you.
Safe.
Building materials, right?
Yes, building materials.
And what is it about your clients? You said you're 3 for 3 on this, on hot tubs.
Yeah, I am. My clients don't like them.
So when there's a hot tub on the property, they want you to put in the contract that the seller is to remove the hot tub prior to closing.
They're to remove it, yes.
Why?
I don't know. To me, it's an amazing feature, and I would love to have their hot tub, but...
Unless it's broken or it's a problem.
These have been 3 working, expensive, really nice hot tubs, and they just haven't wanted them. They don't want them on the property.
So the next time that happens, your little side agreement with your buyer, hey, we're not telling them to take the hot tub. I have someone who will come get it the day of closing,
right.
And they will take it off the property, and then they will transport it to your house.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Good. All right. So we got some weird things: llama pictures, stack of lumber, get the hot tub out. Ultimately, in today's market, we're August of 2022. A lot of shifts have happened this year.
Yes.
Between supply and demand, interest rates, and things like that. In general, how would you sum up representing buyers in today's market?
It's a lot harder than when I got started. It's a lot harder to set a schedule for the day because sometimes that house comes on the market, and if it's in that price point and that area that by 7 o'clock tonight it's going to already have 10 offers or 3 offers or whatever it is, you have to go. There's no more like, yeah, great, we can go see that tomorrow evening. I can have my whole week scheduled. You are jumping.
So when you got in, you could go look at 3 or 4 houses in a day, couple of days to sleep on it.
Yes.
You could make the offer, maybe negotiate with the seller a little bit. And today it's like, you got dinner planned. You've got all the chickens thawing. Everything's ready to go. 4 o'clock, you get a text, hey, this just hit the market. And then you're picking something up to eat on the way home.
Yes.
Because you either show it tonight or the buyer doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel that in the worst way.
It's a lot different, especially with kids' schedules in the evenings and sports and trying to have dinner and all of that. It just complicates a lot of matters.
But it also speaks to the fact that you have ready, willing, and able clients that you're willing to make sure that they get what they need.
Absolutely.
Well, how else has the market changed when it comes to representing buyers?
It's longer. A lot of times it takes longer for them to not just find something because there's not much there, but find something and then win.
Yeah, because they may find 4 houses that they like.
Yes.
But, if let's say that their financing requires an appraisal, they can't do an appraisal gap or something. It's like, well, when people are pulling out the big guns, it's really hard to, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll find them something, but it's hard to compete sometimes.
It is, and patience is huge. And that's hard when you're ready to buy a house and you want to go. There's no like, okay, I can handle 6 months or 3 months or whatever of looking and fighting. And I think I had one buyer equate it to a battle. She's like, I'm battle weary. I'm tired of this. And I was like, I feel that so far down in my soul right now. that's a real description of what it has been.
I remember the days that we would sit down with a buyer and do our buyer consultation. And the buyer consultation is usually two parts. It's what are your criteria and what kind of house, how excited are you and what kind of house are we looking for? And then the other one, we would educate them on the process, right? And then the criteria, we would ask bedrooms, bathrooms, location. Do you need a garage? What do you want the yard to be like? And then we would pull up the multiple listing system, and then there would be 13 houses that they could pick from that match pretty much all of that.
Right.
And now when you pull it up, it's like, all right, I know you said you really wanted this to have indoor plumbing, but like we can't, there's no houses available.
Are you okay with an outhouse right
now?
Do
you really need it to be within 30 miles of your work?
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to find stuff. So patience does play in a lot.
It really does. And I've seen it the most with my Sycamore people because there's nothing. And there's been nothing for weeks, and we have marketed.
So what advice do you give somebody who is just, they're battle weary? They're not getting what they're looking for. It's just, they're getting tired. What do you say?
A lot of times they just need to vent. They need to I need to hear it, and they need me to hear them, and that's okay. I feel like we wear a lot of hats, as you know, and sometimes it's the psychologist.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's patience. We have to be patient. And I'm really big on not settling for my people. So if I hear, yeah, this could work, the answer is no, move on. It's not worth my time or yours to put an offer in because you don't want to live here.
Well, and you never want to see your client in a situation where they're so desperate that, oh yeah, this will do.
Right.
You want them to be like, man, can you believe we can have this kitchen? Like you want them to be excited. And it's kind of a punch to the gut sometimes when you know and they know and everybody knows that they're settling because they just needed a house to move
Absolutely.
into. And it happens.
It does.
Yeah. Let's see here. Representing buyers in today's market. Any other things? I know inspections are big. We're getting, appraisal gaps are starting to ease up. I haven't seen an appraisal gap in a little while.
Yeah, I think they're going away, which would be really nice.
Inspections are coming back. I know home warranty companies right now, they're like, oh yeah, you can now put a home warranty on your offer because the seller may not have 50,000 offers on this house. So a lot of people right now they know that the interest rates have gone up. I think earlier this year the interest rates were in the 3-ish.
I think so.
And now they were up to 6.25. They might be hovering around 6 right now. However, when the interest rates went up that much that fast, we were all the agents were looking at each other like, man, this is going to be a big flop. Like nobody's going to want to buy a house. No, like everybody's still buying houses.
It hasn't changed much. And realistically, I think if we think about it, those are normal interest rates. When I bought my first house, that was our interest rate. I think it was 5.5. So to me, yeah, it seems nuts because, oh my gosh, all this, and it went really fast, I think is the biggest thing, but it's normal and people, they still need houses. They're still buying.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a supply and demand equation. There's not much inventory out there, period. So, and when somebody needs to buy a house, they're going to have to kind of still compete.
Right.
And the economists out there are saying that the market's not going to crash and it's not going to decline. It's just not going to accelerate as much. So it's going to decelerate, where your house last year might be worth just a little less than it is this year. And then next year it'd be worth just a little more, but it's not going to be this 15% more trend. And then, of course, there's all sorts of other things that play into it. Gas prices. Are people going to move closer to work? Are they going to want to, spend more money on adding on to their house than they are? So it just depends. It might impact inventory and everything else, too.
It does.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. It's Real Estate Momentum Podcast. Sarah Manning's our guest today. Stay tuned for more.